Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know as we're talking college football on this channel year round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. I think what you could argue is the most impactful conference championship game this weekend. Bottom line is, listen, Big Ten, SEC, no matter who wins, they're in. No matter who loses, they're still in. Big 12, Mountain West, no matter who wins, they're in. And if you lose, you're out. If UNLV, Boise, Arizona State, Iowa State lose, they ain't getting in the 12-team playoff, okay? So I only bring it up because the ACC, you talk about storylines on storylines on storylines. We got plenty of them in Charlotte. SMU playing Clemson. SMU a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 55.5. Let's start with SMU. Listen, I'll say this. Kind of an unpopular opinion if you're not an SMU fan. I think the SMU story is really cool, okay? Because don't forget, it was 18 months ago or so when college sports is going crazy and everybody's trying to find a landing spot, and Oregon and Washington are going here, and Arizona State, et cetera, are going there. And SMU basically saw a window to get into a power conference. They had been trying for years. If the Pac-12 had stayed together, it was assumed that SMU was getting an invite alongside San Diego State. And so I bring it up. By the way, I guess the Pac-12 did technically stay together. Anyway, another conversation for another day. But SMU, of course, they see a window to get in the ACC. They say, okay, we'll take no TV money. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about the finances, blah, blah, whatever. And they were kind of mocked and they were kind of made fun of. Well, guess who's getting the last laugh now, okay? Because I'm not here to mock SMU for taking no TV money. This is a world where money is king, where money is power. Look at Ohio State has a $20 million roster that they openly brag about. Can't even beat Michigan. So why am I going to make fun of SMU because they bought their way into the ACC? And does it really matter? Because here's the bottom line. A win, they're going to the playoff. A loss, they might be going to the playoff as well. They're obviously in contention for that final at-large bid if they lose. But let's go ahead and break down this game. Let's talk SMU because, listen, Clemson's another one we've talked about a ton on this show. But SMU's like a very good team. It's not just that they're 11-1. First off, I know the arguments for and against them. Only top 25 team that they've played, they lost to in BYU. Teams that are currently in the top 25. They did play Pitt when Pitt was in the top 25. But I bring it up because it's almost like an Indiana vibe of they've basically beaten everybody that they're supposed to, and most of them in absolutely dominant fashion, okay? In terms of what SMU does, pretty much everything well. Find it interesting. This is one of the most balanced offenses in all of college football coming into this conference championship week. You look at this offense. They are, how about this? They are, let me see here. I got the stats right here. Give me a second. Forgive me. I apologize. They are top 20. You know what? I'll just look it up. Top 20, and they're a top 20 offense. I think the pass game's a little stronger than the run game, but Brashard Smith is a 1,000-yard rusher. Kevin Jennings is obviously the quarterback. If you do not know that name, get to know him. He is a guy that, listen, he's really, like, you could legitimately argue maybe the most underrated player in college football. 67% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's also their second leading rusher. But what I find interesting, and this is part of the Rhett Lashley thing, is that offense is so balanced, right? How about this? I saw this stat, kind of blew me away. 9 different receivers with at least 10 catches. That includes 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. So they just spread the ball all over. They run the ball very effectively, but they spread the ball very well also. On top of that, and I think this is worth noting, they got a defensive front that can get after people. Top number 5 rush defense in all of college football. The sack numbers are in the top 10 in college football. TFL's top 10 in college football. So you just talk about all these things, the ability to make plays in the backfield, the ability to make a quarterback uncomfortable. SMU is it. On the season, 87 total TFLs. That is a monster number for this time of year. And then, as I said a second ago, 37 sacks as well. It's actually technically top 15 in the country, not top 10, but you get the point. They get after people. So the defense is really good up front. The one issue that is worth noting, Secondary, could be a little bit better. On the season, they're ranked 85th nationally in pass defense. And listen, they've obviously faced some pretty good pass defenses overall. But if you're looking for a positive, they do have a lot of takeaways, 15 interceptions on the season. That is top 15 nationally. So this is really a pretty complete team coming into this game. Clemson, on the other hand, interesting story in their own right. They know they need to win this game to get in to the college football playoff. And kind of interesting to hear Dabo talk about it throughout the week. This was a team that, listen, for chunks, they outplayed South Carolina. I don't want to say that they should have beat South Carolina because I don't believe that at all. But the counter to that is when it comes to that South Carolina game, listen, Lenore Sellers just went Superman mode in that game. And if Lenore Sellers is like 75% of what he was, you have a chance to win. Whenever the quarterback has 166 yards rushing, 10 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns, that guy is balling out, okay? So Sellers was phenomenal. Kevin Jennings is good, but he ain't Lenore Sellers, okay? And so I just bring it up because as I look at this game, a couple things stand out. One, if Lenore Sellers isn't Superman, you beat South Carolina. 2, I also think it's worth noting, what is the strength of Clemson's offense? It is the pass game with Cade Klubnik. It is the pass game with those young wide receivers, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco. Cade Klubnik has been phenomenal this year, moving the ball up and down the field. He looks comfortable in that Garrett Riley offense. And so as I look at this game, you know what my best bet is? I am actually going to take Clemson to win and to cover the 2.5. The bottom line is, look, when I look at this game, I think SMU might be the better team, but I do think styles make fights, and I do think there's a couple variables at play as well. As far as the styles make fights thing, what did I just say? The one thing that SMU does not do well, really as a team, is they can't really stop the pass. And so you have a bottom half pass defense in college football. By the way, don't tell me that Clemson's not going to be able to block up front because they did a pretty good job blocking against South Carolina last week. And South Carolina is as good as anybody along the front line and the front 7, etc. And so when you look at Clemson, they just faced a great defensive front, held their own. They're going to face another good one, but they're going to face a very questionable secondary in SMU. Beyond that, there's a couple other variables. One, I mentioned it a second ago, but listening to Dabo Swinney talk about this week for Clemson, he said, look, we're sitting there in the locker room or whatever, and we're all in sulk mode, and all of a sudden our phones start blowing up seeing the Miami score. Remember, if Miami had won, they would have been playing in this conference championship game, okay? And so you hear Dabo talk about it. He said, throughout the day, I could feel the momentum building in the group chats and the this and the that, the text messages. And he's like, by Sunday night, we were ready to go. We were ready to play again. We know we got a new lease on life. And I do think they're going to come out like we'll get the best version of Clemson on Saturday night. Finally, and maybe I'm ignorant, but I do think this matters. I do think it is kind of significant that Rhett Lashlee has been very publicly campaigning for we should get an at-large even if we lose. I talked about this a lot on the Aaron Torres pod on Thursday. Listen, I think Rhett Lashlee's doing the right thing. I think if he doesn't, nobody else will. The ACC is terrible at PR, and we know Kalen DeBoer's out there campaigning. We know Lane Kiffin is out there campaigning, and we know that Shane Beamer is out there campaigning as well. And so if he doesn't do it, no one will. But I do wonder, is it going too far? He's talking a lot about if we lose. And I'm not a big, what you put into the universe is what comes back to you. But it's like at a certain point, how can your players not hear that? How can they not be worried about what could happen if we lose, this and that? So Clemson, the pressure's kind of off of them. They're kind of lucky to be here. They needed some help. Now it's a free roll. We win. We're in this 12-team playoff. Doesn't matter what happened in South Carolina. It doesn't matter against Georgia. It doesn't matter we lost to Louisville at home. We're in the 12-team playoff. And so I will be fascinated to see what we get out of Clemson. I'll be fascinated to see if SMU can block out the noise. Now, I still think SMU actually has a pretty good case to get in as long as they don't get blown out here. But in terms of a pick, in terms of a best bet, I will take Clemson plus 2.5. But really, I'm taking the Clemson money line. I do think they win. I do think they cover.